Hello everyone, welcome back to Foot Forecast. In today's video I'm going to be ranking every Premier League keeper, and this is going to be based off a combination of this season and just the overall quality of the keeper I think they are at. So let's start off with the first keeper, which is John Victor. I'm going to put John Victor in E. I think he's probably a championship level keeper, which is basically what the E tier means. He's played a couple of games for Forest this season and he's disappointed. Then I'm on to the next Forest keeper, which is Matt Sells. I'm going to put Matt Sells into C. I think he's a solid Premier League keeper. Last season he was excellent for Forest. This year I'd say he's more been like a C level keeper, and that's where I think he's more at the sort of a B or an A tier. Then I've got Stephen Ortega. I think a couple of years ago I would have put Ortega at least in C, but now I think I'd probably drop Ortega down to D. I think the fact he's now a backup keeper for Forest probably sums up the fact he's probably a D level keeper. So then I'm on to Newcastle United. I'm starting off with Aaron Ramsdale. I'm going to put Ramsdale in the low C category. He does now start ahead of Nick Pope, and I think he is a better keeper than Pope, so I'm going to put him in C tier, and I'm going to put Pope in sort of probably a D plus tier. I think they're quite close together. I would say Pope could be a better shot stopper, but then he's poor with his feet compared to Ramsdale, and overall I think that's fair compared to others. Then I've got the next player, which is Sam Johnson. I'm going to put him in the E tier. I think he's a championship keeper. And then I've got Jose Sarr. I don't think he'd be the worst signing for a side sort of low down the Premier League table or a side coming up. I'm going to put Jose Sarr into the D tier. Then I've got the next keeper, which is Aalborg for Sunderland. I'm going to put Aalborg into D. I think so far when he's played, he's proven he's probably at Premier League level. And then I've got Robin Roofs, because I haven't seen much of Roofs. It's going to be purely based off this season, and I'm going to put Robin Roofs in the B tier. I think he's been really good for Sunderland and he's been crucial for them in having such a good season, so I think Robin Roofs deserves B tier. Then I'm on to Dubravka. I'm going to put Dubravka into D tier. I would say he's a Premier League keeper. I think for a side coming up, he's a player you could look at to come in and start as your number one, similar to what he's done for Burnley this season, and I think overall he's done quite a good job. Has Dubravka, he's obviously faced a lot of shots, and as you'd expect, he's conceded a lot, but he's also kept quite a few out. Then I'm on to Spurs, and starting off with Kinski. I think I'd probably put Kinski in the D tier. He obviously had that poor game against Atletico Madrid like a month ago, but I think he is better than this. And I think when he came in last season, he was good enough, I think, to be considered Premier League level. Then I've got Vicario. I'm going to put him also in the D tier. I think these are two below average keepers for Premier League level, and if Spurs stay up, this is an area they need to improve. Then I'm on to Brighton, and I'm starting off with Jason Steele. At this point, I'd probably say Jason Steele is a championship keeper. He was decent when he actually started quite a few games for Brighton sort of a couple of years ago, but overall I think Steele is an E tier keeper now. Then I've got Verbruggen. I'm going to put Verbruggen into C. I think he's proven he's a solid Premier League keeper, and he's the player at some point that could get a move away to a better club and a bigger club than Brighton. Then I'm on to West Ham, and I'm starting off with Alphonse Areola. I'm going to put Areola into D tier. I think he's still at Premier League level, so I think that's fair for Areola. And I'm going to do the same with Mads Hermansen. He had a poor start to his season, did Hermansen, but recently, since he's come back into the side, he's actually been quite solid for West Ham and goal, so I think D tier is fair. And overall, the reason why he got a move from Leicester last season is because he was Premier League level and he was too good for the Championship. Then I'm on to Liverpool, and I'm starting off with Mamardashvili. He hasn't had the greatest start at Liverpool so far this season, but overall I would still probably say he's a solid Premier League keeper, and I think that's fair for Mamardashvili. Then I've got Alisson. Now this is quite an interesting one, because I think a couple of years ago Alisson was easily an A-level keeper. These days you could argue he's a B-tier keeper because he's also got injury problems now, but I'm still going to keep Alisson in A. I still think he's one of the best keepers in the world, despite maybe not having his best sort of year. And I think the reason why people have started saying maybe he's a B-tier keeper, not a world-class keeper, is just because of the expectations that Alisson set a couple of years ago. Then I'm on to Leeds, and I'm starting off with Lucas Perry. I'm going to put Perry into A tier. He was brought in for Leeds this season to start and goal. He started about 15 games and then he was eventually dropped for Carl Darlow. So I think E tier is fair. I think he's probably championship standards, and someone that's probably not even championship standards is Melier. There's an argument he's League One standard. He was that poor for Leeds United last season in the Championship, and he nearly cost him promotion. Then I've got Carl Darlow. I'm going to put Carl Darlow into the D tier. At the start of the season, I would have put Darlow in E tier, but he's actually proven to be a solid Premier League keeper. Then I'm on to Crystal Palace, starting off with Walter Benitez. I'm going to put him into D tier. I think he's probably Premier League level. Maybe there's an argument he's E tier, but I think that's probably the highest tier he's getting is D tier, probably a D minus. Then I've got Dean Henderson. I think Henderson's just a solid Premier League keeper, and he's proven that in the last couple of years. I'm putting Henderson into C tier. Then I'm on to Burns Leno. I'm going to put Leno into D. I think at the start of the season, I would have seen Leno is probably a C tier keeper, just sort of the definition of a solid Premier League keeper. But I've been disappointed with him at points this season. I think I'm going to drop him down because he's been making some mistakes at points. If I had to rank him in this tier list, he'd be like a D+, because I think that's fair for Leno. Then I've got Jordan Pickford. I'm going to put Jordan Pickford into the B tier. A good Premier League keeper at the very least. And honestly, I think Pickford out of the Bs is probably going to be closest to A tier. I've been really impressed with Jordan Pickford in the last couple of seasons, and I think it is a bit of a myth that he just steps up for England. For Everton this season, I think he's been outstanding. The only problem with Pickford is he does have that sort of mistake in him. We saw recently against Arsenal when he looked to claim that cross and he just completely missed it. Then I'm on to Manchester City's keepers, and I'm starting off with Donnarumma. I'm going to put Donnarumma into A. I'd probably say the best sort of shot stopper on this list, but playing out from the back is a weakness of Donnarumma, as we saw in the game against Arsenal. Then I've got James Trafford. I would say a solid Premier League keeper is James Trafford, and I think if he was to go start for someone, we could be saying B level at some point, because Trafford has a lot of potential. I think we've seen this. He's also very comfortable with the ball at his feet. He's a lot better than a backup Premier League keeper for Manchester City. Then I've got Petrovic. I would say Petrovic is a D+ keeper. I think recently he's actually been very good for Bournemouth in goal, but before this he was making a couple of errors. I'm just not overly convinced by Petrovic. If there are any Bournemouth fans watching this video, please let me know your thoughts on Petrovic and D. Maybe I've been harsh there. Maybe he is a C Premier League keeper. Then I've got Robert Sanchez. Now this is a difficult one, because Sanchez I think is actually quite a good keeper. If we were to rank him basically for 90% of his games, I think we'd probably say Sanchez is close to a B. But the problem with Sanchez is 10 to 20% of his games, he's absolutely shocking, and he's almost like an E keeper. And when he makes one mistake in a game, he often makes two. So that's the problem with a keeper like Sanchez. I'm going to put him in C. He's not my preferred keeper, though, in the C tier list. I probably prefer most of the other options, because for me, the best keepers are the ones that are just reliable. They give you a 7 out of 10 every week. And Sanchez, every now and then, can give you those 2 out of 10s, which is a real problem. Then I'm on to Jorgensen. What I've seen from Jorgensen, he's an E-level Premier League keeper. He's been terrible at points when he's been called upon. Then I'm on to Manchester United, starting off with Bienda, straight away going into E. When he was the first choice keeper at the start of the season, he was shocking. Then I've got Lamans. I've been really impressed with Lamans actually since he's coming for Manchester United. I think I'd say right now he's probably still a C-level keeper, but I think in the future we could be looking at a B-level keeper. He's also made a couple of mistakes this season. For example, against Leeds United, he had a couple of issues playing out from the back. Then I'm on to Caoimhin Kelleher, the definition, I think, of a solid Premier League keeper, straight in C for Kelleher. I really rate Kelleher highly, and he comes up with those big moments, as we saw for Liverpool in the Cup finals. So I'm on to Emi Martinez. Martinez is a keeper that steps up in those big moments, for example, in the World Cup final, in penalty shootouts. So straight away, I think you're looking at a good Premier League keeper at least. But the problem with Emi Martinez is he can just make costly errors at points in games. I think I'm going to give him B, but I'd probably say a low B. I'd prefer Jordan Pickford ahead of Emi Martinez. For Robin Roofs, I'd probably give it level right now, but in the future, I may say Roofs ahead of Martinez. Then I've got Bizot. I'm going to put Bizot into D. I think he's Premier League level, but that's it. I don't think he's any better than that. Then I've got Kepa straight into E for me. I think at this point, Kepa's not even good enough to be a Premier League keeper. Last season at Bournemouth, he was alright, but once again, the problem with Kepa is that ability to make those big errors and big moments, as we saw in the Cup final. And he was a huge reason why Arsenal went out. And finally, I've got David Raya. I'm going to put Raya into A tier. I think he's one of the best keepers in the Premier League. In fact, I'd probably say he is the best right now. If I had to order that top 3, I think that's what it would be. Ryan Donnarumma is very close, but the difference is that Raya is better with his feet. So that is the end of this video. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments on this ranking. Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? And if you enjoy this video, it'd be great if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as liking the video.